Probably like almost any son or granddaughter, my brother and I used to love going to visit with our grandparents. And neither set of grandparents lived too far from where we lived, so we frequently got that opportunity. And it never mattered whether my grandparents knew that my brother and I or anyone was ever coming, whether it was going to be an announced visit or a planned visit. They were always ready. They were always ready to see and greet us. And it wasn't just us, their grandchildren. It was anybody. They were always ready with food. And they never needed to prepare any food. And there was always just food. There was cookies, there was snacks, dinner was already prepared, and there was always more than enough. They were always ready with food. They were always ready to stop whatever it is that they were doing. Whether it was just doing chores, whether they were in the middle of conversations, it didn't matter what they were doing. They were always ready to stop and welcome whoever rang their doorbell. And they were always ready to sit and visit. Whoever rang their doorbell, they were always ready to welcome them in and to sit and take time and visit with them. This was one of the many reasons why my brother and I used to love going to visit our grandparents, because they were always prepared. They were always prepared to host. I remember a few weeks back, my mother sent me a YouTube link of a comedian who was kind of making light of subsequent generations after my grandparents' generation. Right, so my grandparents' generation, many of their peers were absolutely like that, always ready to host. Whenever the doorbell rang, they jumped. They welcomed the opportunity to greet a visitor. They welcomed people visiting them. Kind of subsequent generations of folks, according to this comedian, he said, we're not as prepared to host. In fact, we don't want to host. When the doorbell rings, and sometimes our reaction is one of frustration, one of anger. Who would dare disturb us? But kind of implying that subsequent generations are not as prepared to welcome guests. They're not as prepared with food ready. They're not as prepared to drop what it is that they're doing. They're not as prepared to sit and visit with visitors coming to their home. And guys, ready or not, prepared or not, our Lord is coming. Jesus Christ is coming, and not just to visit. We hear in our gospel today that our Lord is coming back. And for this reason, we're given this great time of the Advent season by the church every year, a time to prepare and to focus on our preparations of welcoming our Lord in his second coming. Maybe one good thought experiment and one for reflection and worth our time and reflection would be, if our Lord came tomorrow, if our Lord returned tomorrow, would we be prepared? If Jesus Christ comes tomorrow morning, are we prepared for that? And if not, what are those areas where we need to prepare more? Perhaps it's an area of busyness. Maybe this Advent season for us needs to be focusing on we are too busy. We have so much going on, and therefore we are too busy that we don't have enough time to prepare for our Lord who is coming. Maybe we lack preparations in staying committed to a daily regimen of substantial prayer. Perhaps we lack preparations in how we spend our free time. What little free time we get, maybe we're a little bit too idle. We're a little bit too prone to just vegging out and not enough preparation going on and growth and reading and delving into our faith. Perhaps we lack preparation in having too much noise in our day-to-day life. Perhaps there's too much noise and distraction going on, and we could use a little bit more silence to help us listen and prepare for the one who is coming. Maybe we need preparations in our attitudes. If you're anything like me, that's always the case. Maybe we are struggling with pride. Maybe we're struggling with ingratitude. Maybe we could use more preparation in terms of our attitudes. Or maybe it's just we need to sacrifice. We need more opportunities to sacrifice and dedicate our lives to a life of sacrifice and charity. It could be any one of those things. It could be, if you're anything like me, 30 more things on top of that. My suggestion is that take this day, take the rest of this day and ask that question of, if Jesus came back tomorrow, would I be prepared? Would I be as prepared as our grandparents were to welcome us into their home? Would I be as prepared with food? Would I be as prepared as they were with readiness to stop? Would I be as prepared as they were with readiness to sit and visit and be with the visitor? If we're not prepared in that regard, what is one of those things? Not 20, not 30. In this Advent season, choose one of those areas where we need more preparation and focus on those in these next weeks so that we can truly, as a people, be prepared to welcome our beloved Lord and Savior.